What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG Structures chapter review. Today, guys, we are going to be going over chapter 16 of Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG Structures. I'm very excited to be getting into this chapter with you guys, as it's been a minute since we've done an OCG Structures review on this channel. After all the stuff that ended up happening with manga decks really made it hard for us to be able to do this series, since we didn't have a way to actually have not only this manga, but also the Sevens manga get translated. So I'm very glad that we're going to be able to get back into this series. And before anyone says it in the comments, I do know that chapter 5 for the Sevens manga and chapter 17 for OCG Structures is out. I will get to those, I promise you, but we are going to only focus on chapter 16 of Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG Structures in this video. So without further ado, let's not waste any more time and let's jump right into it. So, generally speaking, what were my thoughts on Chapter 16 of Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG Structures? Well, I thought this was a good chapter to kind of come back on, especially since this is actually the final part of the Tendo versus Shoma duel. Yeah, we ended off on the cliffhanger on the last time that we've done a chapter review for OCG Structures, and if you are unfamiliar where we're at right now in the story, and I can completely understand since it's been a minute since we've actually covered OCG Structures on this channel, other than the videos I did for the new characters. But obviously that went into spoiler territory and you didn't want to see that, then obviously you didn't see it. But in terms of reviews, it has been a minute since we've done a review for OCG Structures. But just to kind of catch us up on where we're at right now, it's in the middle of Shoma's turn. He only has his Lulu on the field, his second Lulu on the field, and he has 2 cards in his hand, while Tendo controls his second Outledge and an Elixir of Scarlet on Seguin. I think that's how you're supposed to say it. I'm not good with card names all the time, so I do apologize if I'm wrong with the names on them. But that's currently Tendo's field right now, and Shoma is now under Max C as well, which if you remember, Max C allows you to draw a card every time you special summon a monster, or it gains you a card every time your opponent special summons a monster, excuse me. If Max C could do that, holy crap, that card would be even more broken than it already is. I mean, TCG already banned it. But getting back on topic, so now Shoma has to make a decision of either ending his turn right now with just a Lulu on his field and just hope that Tendo cannot kill him in the next turn, or he tries to go for it and tries to kill him in this one turn, and if he doesn't, then Tendo just basically automatically wins, because with Virtual World being such a heavy special summon deck, if Shoma tries to go all out and tries to kill his opponent right here and now, and it gets disrupted and he's not able to do anything else to kill him, then Tendo will just have a whole bunch of cards that he could just use to kill Shoma in the next turn. And you see all the characters kind of like thinking about it, like questioning, is Shoma going to actually go for it? And you even see Yugioh kind of looking at him and thinking to herself, you know, this is your chance, Shoma, to show how much you have grown as a duelist, because obviously this is the biggest like duel that Shoma has ever had, since he's never participated in a tournament like this before since he lived back in the countryside. So this was a big chance for Shoma to show how strong he really is. And Shoma decides that he's actually going to do it by being able to special summon his Nyan from his graveyard, and allows Tendo to draw a card right off the bat. And you know, Tendo is trying to play this mind game with him because of the fact that Max sees on the field that, you know, you keep special summoning, you're going to keep giving me cards. But Shoma does not crack from the pressure, as he just continues to do it. He is able to special summon a 2/2 from his graveyard by discarding a GG from his hand. Then he's also able to summon a Lao Lao from his hand by sending a Queen Long from his deck to the graveyard, which, if you don't know what that card is, for people that don't know Virtual World decks very well, it's a very powerful spell card for the Virtual World deck. And I know because I actually did play Virtual World for a certain time when True King of All Calamity was actually limited in the format. I still play it from time to time, but I actually don't really play much of it anymore. I play more Drytron these days now, so yeah, I definitely kind of gone away from the Virtual World deck. But getting back on topic, so he's able to get his Lao Lao on the field, And he's also able to summon his GG from his graveyard. And remember, every time he keeps special summoning these monsters, Tendo keeps to draw an additional card. And then this is where Shoma then starts to pop up. He's able to Exceed Summon into his Fan, which I'm just going to say this right now. I'm not going to read the full name of the virtual world cards. There's just no reason to do it. So I'm just going to be reading the last part of the names. Like with Quilong, I'm just going to call it like that. I'm not going to say its entire name. I just don't think there's really a point in doing that. But he's able to Exceed Summon into his Fan, activates his effect from detaching 2 materials to banish both Outlages in his field and graveyard, because remember, he does have another Outlage in his graveyard that he can potentially use. So Shoma decides to just banish them both, since the protection effect on Outlage does not protect it from being banished. So Shoma is just able to get rid of the other 2 Outlages, but he still has to deal with the set card that we have, which he already knows is the Elixir card. So this is when he decides to go into a Synchro Summon, this time into Juchi, and uses its effect to try and banish Lalo and his first Lulu to destroy the set card, but obviously that doesn't work. Tendo is just able to activate it right there, and it allows him to be able to get out his 3rd copy of his Outlige from his deck. But Shoma doesn't crack from the pressure of that either, as he's able to banish his 2/2 and his 2nd Lulu from graveyard to activate one of the effects of his Shenshin in his graveyard. Because remember, I think it was the last chapter, he was able to Synchro Summon into a Shenshin. So he's able to get that back out from its effect, and then he is able to banish his 2nd Chuche to activate its effect to increase Nyanyan's level by 3, which I'm kind of glad they did this, because if you don't know what Virtual World can really do, essentially they're able to go into very powerful, like, rank 6 monsters, level 6 monsters, rank 9 monsters. That's why True King of All Calamity could be played in Virtual World, because True King was a rank 9 monster, excuse me, because it was an Exceed monster, and since they can make rank 9 so easily, they can actually go into a True King of All Calamity very easily. In fact, they can go into 2 of it and just completely wreck your opponent there. I mean, I've been Double Calamity. I have actually caused a Double Calamity before, so I know how powerful this card is. And you might be wondering, why am I even bringing this up? Well, one thing that I was very surprised didn't happen in this chapter was Shoma actually using True King of All Calamity. And I understand it's not a Virtual World card, so why would he be playing it? But we see later in the duel, he uses a Constellar monster. He summons Constellar Ptolemy F7, which is able to get rid of the 3rd Outlige on the field by bouncing it back to the hand. And that's essentially where he goes for the OTK there, because he has enough monsters to just defeat Tendo. And Tendo didn't even draw any hand traps, because that's what he was essentially trying to do with Maxi, was to try to get a hand trap to his hand and just wreck Shoma's plays right there. That way he can just scoop up the duel from there. But obviously that doesn't happen. He draws, I think, like 10 cards in this duel. He draws 9 from what we see in this episode, but in the last chapter, he summoned Speedroid Terratops, so he actually had 10 draws off of that technically, or Shoma was able to special summon 10 monsters, which shows the power of a Virtual World deck. The fact that he was able to special summon 10 monsters in just one turn. Yeah, Speedroid isn't a Virtual World, but it's still a special summon, so that just shows the power of a Virtual World deck. And honestly, I'm just going to say this, it's fun to be able to special summon these monsters. Obviously, when you don't actually get stopped by a hand trap or something like that, it's really nice to be able to do that. But I was really, going back into the topic, I was really expecting them to show off True King of All Calamity, because that was a meta tier card that was used in the metagame, and I thought OCG Structures was going to kind of show that off, because obviously the OCG really pays attention to their metagame. I mean, from the posts that we see on Yugioh Organization from them, we know that they are paying very close attention to their metagame, a lot better than the TCG does, so I really would have thought they would have shown that off. But I guess to be fair, maybe it just wouldn't make sense for him to use True King of All Calamity. I mean, Constellar Ptolemy M7 has been used for a long time now. True King of All Calamity was just discovered when the Virtual World deck came to be, but I guess they wanted to show the full power of Virtual World by itself without having to use a broken card like True King of All Calamity. And no, it's not because the card is banned is why they didn't show it, because of the time of when this actual chapter was released, True King was still, I think it was limited if I remember correctly, so it was still had a very good chance of being played in this duel, especially since they're not shy from having other characters use like different cards in a certain archetype deck. Like, again, he used the Concealer monster in this duel, and that's not a Virtual World card, so I'm very surprised that they didn't actually show calamities in this duel. But who knows, maybe that actually would have made the duel more interesting, and that's why they didn't actually put calamities in Shoma's deck. But that's completely fine. I still love the final turn of Shoma, and it just, again, showed the true potential of Virtual World, and it also showed what Virtual World can do by changing the levels of monsters. I actually really did like the fact that they did that as well, because that is a key component of Virtual World, and that's something that they can do. But Shoma is able to get all these monsters on the field, and he's able to defeat Tendo, which he needed to, because if Shoma lost this duel, that was it for the tournament, because they're already down a point since Miss Guide lost her duel against Light. Shoma needed to win this duel, so it made the most sense that Shoma was going to win this duel, and Tendo loses the duel, and he actually goes up and gives Shoma a handshake after the duel, which is really good, and I really did like the fact that he didn't, like, you know, cry about it and just like run off, you know, the stage and all that stuff. I'm glad that he was respectful and he went up to Shoma and gave him a handshake and told him that that was a good duel and all that stuff. So I really did like that, but it looks like now the score is tied 1-1 now, and we have the final matchup of the tournament, which is going to be again with Strong versus Dark, which I'm going to say this, I love the fact that they're actually doing this. You know, when we look back at other like tournament arcs we've seen in previous Yu-Gi-Ohs, whether it's the anime or the manga, they have never had it to where the protagonist never dueled in the last part of the tournament. Like, he wasn't the final duelist of the tournament, or at least of one I can't think of. Like, I think of, like, in 5Ds, you know, every time that it went to the final duelist for the group, it was always the protagonist who participated in that. And even the newest show, Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s, did it as well, as Yuga was the last one to participate in the finals tournament as well. So this is normally the case when it comes to these tournaments, with the protagonist being the one that is the last duelist to participate. But that's not the case with this one, as Strong's going to be the one to be the last participant for Team Structures, which I guess also makes sense, to be fair, since I guess you could say Strong is like the leader of this group, because he was the one that essentially formed Team Structures in the first place. So I guess it makes sense, but I'm just so used to protagonists being the last one to participate in the tournament that I kind of like the change up with Strong being the one that participates last. And Dark, not surprised at all that he was going to be the last one. I mean, he's the strongest of the 4 kings, so it made sense. And also, this is actually going to be a king versus king matchup, which is actually going to be pretty cool as well. And also, this duel is going to be pretty unpredictable in my opinion, because think about it, Strong right now is like the weakest of the 4 kings, while Dark is the strongest. And you might think it goes in the favor of Dark, but we have to wait and see, because Strong could have grown as a duelist since when he was a king, because if you remember, the 4 kings disbanded a while ago, so maybe in that time, Strong was able to essentially grow his skills as a duelist and might be able to defeat Dark in a duel. So we're gonna have to wait and see, but I'm actually very excited for this matchup, and I'm very excited to see what decks they bring into the table for this upcoming duel. But with that being said, that's going to be it for Chapter 16 of Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG Structures, and that's going to be it for this chapter review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your guys' thoughts on Chapter 16 of Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG Structures down below. Did you think it was a good chapter? Did you think it was okay? Or did you think this chapter wasn't really good at all? And what were your thoughts on Shoma versus Tendo? Do you think the duel was good? Do you think the duel was just alright? Or do you think the duel was not that good at all? Me personally, I enjoyed the duel myself, but to be fair, I have a little bit of a bias with it being a virtual world deck that was used in this episode, so I kind of have a little bit of a personal biasy towards this duel. But I would love to know your guys' thoughts on this chapter and this duel in general down below. But that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, guys, take care and have yourselves a great rest of your day.